Very much.
Sharon can tell you about it, except she didn't come.
That would make sense.
Good morning. Good morning. I have to pop back outside.
Yeah.
My phone on my porch. Oh, good morning.
I mean,
I brought Barbie. I thought about doing that.
Hello.
the year's all fun.
Did you see where the others were?
Yeah. You know, and so that's the stuff that when it gets right down there. Of course, you get back to the old days, stuff had orchard fenders on it, so that the lugs were all protected. You know, and now the narrow tracks kind of circumvent the need for that because they're narrow enough to where the lugs don't touch everything. There's a lot of people very good at it. You gotta have just the right rootstock to have that
Coffee's ready.
planting like that.
Look at you, old school.
You know, something works for like 75 years.
Why change it?
You know, if, especially, Mike, if you put something out there where there was something more than just
I do write that, but I have my
you'll wind up going.
QuickBooks from my business. I use it.
That's a God.
But
I know he's had
to go to bigger city.
Yeah. I know that's on his, been on his.
Yeah, me too. I let the bank run the check and put it for the.
Oh, yeah. With, and his kids are so young.
Well, I think most of
I mean, they're in high school.
Think so.
Wait, middle school? Are they now?
Yeah.
Jesus, I didn't think they were that old. Yeah. No, they're gonna, that's gonna be a big hit for her.
You're gonna get a kick out of it. I was in Boston.
Oh, yes.
See?
What's playing? Do we have something playing right now? Are you in a play? Oh, my God. That's right.
Gear store there, they moved corporate headquarters, from Concord to Walton, Boston, different subdivision, I guess, you know, and so they got everything established out there, and then they had a gear store there where you got sweatshirts and stuff. So there was different socks there. And
I thought they were at their
I know that. So, there you go.
Next time you see me. Too much fun.
Yeah.
Oh. No, paper. What can we do to ourselves? I got too much stuff. How are you?
I'm good. How are you? I'm very tired. It's Fair Week. I helped down there.
I thought you were on vacation.
No, last week.
Oh, last week.
Last week I was actually at a concert.
Oh, good. What did you go see?
I don't even remember their names. Up at Warner and Pawpaw.
Okay.
One of the wineries.
I was just talking about this. I want to go to Detroit. I want to have something in the train station.
Nice.
And it's, I don't think I see it there, but they open all the time.
Yeah.
I want to go to a show.
I didn't realize the lady that makes those work isn't.
Is this the,
Yeah, that's what Amy was telling me.
okay.
Rosie arrives this weekend, on Saturday, and I pick her up in Chicago.
I didn't realize that.
Chicago overnight, yeah. But we're going to, the Chicago Magic Lounge.
And so while you're eating, whatever they're doing.
Yeah. And it's like a speakeasy.
Yeah.
So there's like a secret door and Yeah.
Shots do we have today?
Yeah.
Oh,
That drink.
Yeah.
And look at
Your
you.
name of it. That's reasons.
Fire.
We were in that restaurant, and the cards and
Nice.
it's like so personal, you know, with your
Yeah.
table.
That's what this is supposed to be. Somebody told me about it. I'm like, all right, so we got tickets. The tickets are like $80 a piece, so it better be
It
good.
better be good. All of it. I can't think of it.
Excuse me, I need the real
What to eat. It's a half-hour show.
Okay.
And the owners don't know the kids that you for this. So when you come back and recommend it, so 3 go to the same restaurants and they sit and discuss it. But it's been on for 50 years.
Okay.
Yeah. Do you know the Eat show on PBS from Chicago, when they go to different restaurants all around that area?
Yeah, something.
It's only 2 or 3 words, and I've been watching it all my life. And they tell you what wine to drink, but it's.
I'm trying to think of it. It might come to me.
You've seen it before?
I have, I watched it.
Yeah.
And I stopped by their booth.
Okay, folks, I'm told we are now out on the internet, so let's get started, because according to the clock on the wall, we're
So everybody
going
wound
on
up
4
today.
minutes
Fair
late.
week.
So
Yeah.
It's fair week. Everybody's all wound up.
when you have a moment, we'd like to get started. Thank you. Okay, if you have anything for us, give it to Mr. Curran. He, among other things, is the Sergeant at Arms. And he's packing more heat than a Secret Service agent at any given moment. Along with several of us. That's another story. Anyway, he'll take any documents you have, and we'll do a roll call, and we'll get rolling into this first meeting. Madam Clerk.
Bell. Curran.
Here.
Freeling. Harrison. Hinkleman. Ott. Pittsford. Tyler. Here. Borath. Werfel. Yarborough. Elliott.
Here.
You have 10.
Thank you. We have minutes all the way back to the 24th of July.
I'll make a
approve.
motion to approve the minutes of
Moved by
August
Tyler.
7th.
Approved or seconded by Ott. Tyler and Ott. Any conversation about these minutes? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Pose same sign. Minutes are approved. Requisition review.
Good morning. Does anybody have any questions about the requisitions? Thank you.
No? Okay. All good. According to the agenda, we're going to have a public hearing about Brownfield plan. And we have Community Development Director Dan Fetty here and some other folks behind you. One who I believe is a Public Safety Director for the City of Watervliet. Is
I'll
that right?
introduce everyone who's here.
Okay, but before we get there, to enable this, we need to pause our meeting and go into a public hearing. So is there a motion to pause the meeting and we go into the public hearing on Brownfield? It's moved by Werfel, supported by Harrison. We need a roll call for that.
Freeman.
Yes.
Harrison.
Yes.
Hinkleman.
Yes.
Ott.
Yes.
Tyler. Yes. Borath.
Yes.
Werfel. Yes. Yarborough.
Yes.
Curran.
Yes.
Elliott.
Yes. All right, Dan, why don't you get us started?
Thank you. The purpose of this hearing today is to consider the adoption of a new brownfield plan in the city of Watervliet. This is a housing brownfield plan. It's a new one. You haven't seen anything like this before, so we'll spend some time going through the details. I would like to introduce the guests that we have here today, starting from the far end all the way over. We have Lee Vankenhoven. Many of you know Lee. He's the chair of our Brownfield Authority. He's been on the Brownfield Authority for what, 15 years now, maybe over 20. Okay. Jared Lutz with Michigan Growth Advisors. He and his partners at Michigan Growth Advisors are the consultants in the project. They actually authored the Brownfield plan, which is really nice for me because I didn't have to write it, which is the first time in years I haven't had to write one for you. So if there are problems with it, it's Jared's fault, not mine, but it looks good to me. John Lovely is here with Alan Edwin Homes. They are the developer of the project, and he'll be able to answer any detailed questions you may have about how the project will proceed. And then Tim Sutherland, I guess the hardest working man in Berrien County is both the police chief and the city manager of the city of Waterville, and he's representing Waterville here today. So I'm going to go through a brief presentation with you, and then obviously that open it up for questions. If you have questions of any of the visitors today, I'm sure they can help explain components of this.
Before you proceed, I understand you've reviewed the work, the plan, and the corporate council has reviewed it as well.
The plan has been reviewed. It's been, the Brownfield Authority unanimously recommended approval of this plan. As I'll say in the presentation, I'll skip forward. City of Waterville has already reviewed the plan and formally approved it at their city commission meeting on August 5th. So we're in the last step here.
We've had internal reviews already.
Yes,
as well.
exactly.
Okay, thank you.
All right, so as most of the standard presentation I give you, which is a description of the project, a description of the site, a determination of why the project is eligible to be included in a brownfield plan, and then what we call these section 13 requirements, or the very kind of detailed requirements of section 13 of the statute that we have to show the plan is consistent with. So to start out, this relatively simple project. Allen Edwin Homes is going to redevelop a 7.5 acre parcel in the city of Waterville to construct 19 new single family homes. 4 of those homes will be income restricted as rentals, rented to households at or below 120% of area median income for 10 years. The remaining 15 units will be sold at market rate. Total investment is estimated to be about $12.6 million. Construction is likely to begin this fall and should be completed in total by the fall of 2027. So a fairly quick construction schedule on this project. Now, I want to give a little bit of background. We've discussed it in the past, but there have been changes to the Brownfield Redevelopment Financing Act. Those went through in the summer of 2023 that changed a lot of the way brownfield projects can be done to include this new eligible activity of housing activities and housing properties. We've talked in the past about that, but this is the first time you're going to see one of these plans. So we're going to kind of go through in detail and discuss what that looks like. Typically speaking, only eligible, quote unquote, eligible property can be included in a brownfield plan. And that prior to 2023, that basically meant property that was either contaminated, was functionally obsolete, was blighted, or was tax reverted and owned by a land bank authority. Those were the properties that you could put into a brownfield plan. In 2023, the act was amended to include this new category of housing property. So that's any property on which 1 or more units of residential housing are proposed to be constructed, rehabbed, or otherwise designed to be used as dwellings, or 1 or more units of residential housing proposed to be constructed or rehabilitated and located in a mixed use project. So if you have a project and you're going to build 1 unit of housing, regardless of the condition of the land or anything else, that now qualifies to be included in a brownfield plan, even if it's just not contaminated or not blighted. It's just the fact that 1 house is being constructed, it can be put into a brownfield plan. Well, why would you want to do that? Well, prior to 23, we could use tax increment revenues to offset or reimburse eligible expenses and eligible activities undertaken in the redevelopment of a brownfield site. And those included, environmental activities, response activities, underground storage tank removals, solid waste, lead, mold, asbestos removals, and so forth. The things that you would think of as like remediation and cleanup. We could use the TIF to pay for that stuff. In certain situations, we could also use the TIF to pay for things like assistance to a land bank and quieting title, demolition that was not considered to be environmentally necessary, but was for blight purposes. In some situations for the construction of public infrastructure that supported the project. That had to be within a qualified local government unit like Benton Harbor, City of St. Joe, and so forth. But TIF could be used for basically just those things, okay? Subsequently, with these 23 amendments, we can now include a lot of other things as eligible to be reimbursed with TIF if it's a housing project. The first and most important one is that infrastructure improvements that are necessary to support that housing project are now eligible for TIF reimbursement, okay? Regardless of where the project is, just as long as it's a housing project, if there's infrastructure that needs to go in, that can be used, or that can be considered eligible for reimbursement. And that includes both public and private infrastructure. Say parking lots of a commercial facility that's part of a housing project, that's now eligible. Driveways, things like this. You're going to be seeing a plan at the end of the year where there's going to be some community recreational facilities like pickleball courts and so forth, and that's going to be considered eligible for reimbursement as well as private infrastructure. The other big component of this is the other big reimbursable expense is what's called a financing gap associated with developing housing for income qualified households. So if we build a house, or developer builds a house and then rents that house or sells that house at below market rate in order to get an income qualified household in the area to move in. The difference between what the market rate should be and what they rent or sell it at, that gap, okay, that is now considered an eligible expense and can be reimbursed with TIF over time. I'm going to show you how that works in a second, okay? Now, in order to make that available as a tool to incentivize redevelopment, we have to show that there is an identified housing need in the area. You can't just create a project by saying this is a housing project. You have to show somehow that there is a need in this area for new housing development. According to Southwest Michigan Planning Commission's housing diagnostic tool, anyone who was involved in the Strategic Leadership Council over the last 5 years saw this many times. That housing diagnostic tool report that was published in the fall 2023 indicated there's about 23,000 new residential units needed in this area to satisfy the housing demand. That seems strange considering that our population is stagnant or declining, but a lot of that is being driven by second home ownership and the conversion of single family homes into short-term rentals. It's basically eating up the available housing stock so that there's not enough available for the demands of single family renters or purchasers. In addition to that, there appears to be about 2,900 units needed to satisfy the demand for missing middle households. That would be households with incomes between 50,000 and 100,000. That's where the biggest problem right now is trying to find housing units for people in this income level. State Housing Authority also produced its own regional housing plan analysis, and it showed that in the Paw Paw Lake area, there's approximately 45% or 48% of the households are renters, and they're cost burdened renters, meaning that they're barely able to afford the prevailing rents in the area. Moreover, the housing stock in that area is awfully old. As you can see, it's the average or the median year was 1967. So we're talking about some very, very old houses that are probably, for all practical purposes, fully depreciated out in value. Okay, so why is this project eligible to be included in a brownfield plan? Well, as we just discussed, this is considered housing property under Section 2 of the Act because 19 units, 4 of which are reserved for household qualified or income qualified households, are going to be constructed. It therefore is eligible property, eligible for inclusion in a brownfield plan. This is a location where the property is going to be. If you're familiar with downtown Waterville, I don't know if my cursor is going to work here. Maybe no. But you can see M140 Main Street, and then of course Red Arrow Highway intersecting that. If you go just east of M140, almost past the hospital area right there, this is where it's going. Oh, thank you, Annette. It does work.
That better.
Yeah, well, this is. I have no idea how to use.
There you go.
People know. Yeah, yeah, Dave, I was going to make you walk over there and point to it. So we're talking about this property right here. You might be familiar that about 15 or 20 years ago, Greg Powell and Chris Marsky put in a development right here. This is essentially a completion of that development. Okay, it's a part of the development that was never actually undertaken. It's going to be completed now. Okay. And again, this is just a close-up. That's the parcel ID and the location of the property. And then I'll show you the site plan is obviously pretty straightforward. It's just, this is going to be divided into 19 development parcels. And again, as I said, 4 of those are reserved for income qualified households. All right. So the first thing we have to go through in the Section 13 requirements is a list of what the eligible expenses are anticipated to be for this project. There's a little bit of environmental investigation that was done at phase 1, $2,500. There is some site preparation, some drainage issues that need to be addressed and balancing the site to make sure it's ready for construction. There's some infrastructure, water, sewer, storm, I think electrical lighting and curb, I believe is going in there correctly. Yeah. So that's about, $750,000 of infrastructure. I'm going to skip the loss subsidy and just go to contingency, we always factor in a contingency. There is a cost associated with putting the plan together. There's a cost of implementing the plan. That's actually the administrative fees that the county charges for this. And then total accumulated interest, I think at 5% eligible interest rate calculated on an annual basis. So we have about $2.5 million of eligible activities plus interest over time. The rent loss subsidy is the one that's new to you, and I'm gonna, bear with me and be patient. I'm gonna explain how this works here. So the first thing we do is we look at what the published HUD data is on fair market rents in Berrien County. These are 4-bedroom houses that are being constructed. And if you look here, what we've wind up with is a listed fair market rent of about $3,800 a month. That probably seems very high to everyone, but you got to remember this includes the whole county. So we're looking at properties from Lake Michigan all the way to the east side of Sodus Township. So that's a blended rate of about $3,800 a month, which HUD publishes on an annual basis. Now, the calculation to determine what a household could afford is a little bit different. Here, I'm going to look at 100% area median income for a household of 5. And I don't have the number up here, but I'll tell you that number, I put it down here. 5-person household at 100% AMI has a gross annual income of about $94,000 a month in this community. So we're not, this is relatively middle income families we're talking about. You can think of maybe 2 young working parents and 3 young kids earning about $94,000, $95,000 a year. That's who we're talking about here. And when you do the calculations, if you say you divide this by 3, say a household on average is going to spend 1/3 of its income on housing costs, what you wind up with is that a 4-bedroom unit for them, they can afford to spend about $2,500 a month in total housing costs, which would include their utility costs of $460,000 or $460 a month. That's published by MSHDA. So that $94,000 a year income household can really only spend maximum about $2,500 a month on a house. Okay, which is of course significantly less than the control rent of $3,800. So simply put, what we do is just divide or subtract the rent that household can afford. Remember, this is the $2,500 less utility costs. Subtract that from the control rent as listed by HUD, and we wind up with what the loss is to the actual developer. They're going to lose $1,700 a month on the house, in theory. We take the $1,700 a month loss, we multiply it by 12 months, we get a $21,000 a year loss on that unit, multiplied by 4 units for this development. The annual projected rent loss on this development is going to be $84,000 a year. This is the affordability life of the project is 10 years. In other words, they're going to maintain this affordability level for the next 10 years, which means the total amount of rent that they expect to lose, and this doesn't include interest, this is just flat annual calculated rent loss, is $840,000 in total. Okay, that's where we get this rent loss subsidy number right here. That is in the plan. That is the maximum amount of subsidy that they can receive through tax increment revenues. They may not get to that level because it's going to depend on what their actual rents are. Maybe they rent to a household with an 80% AMI, maybe they rent to a household with 120% AMI. But the difference between what that rented house could actually rent for and what the household can afford, that's the subsidy level. And it's capped at $840,000 for the life of the plan. They will have to certify every year those rent numbers to us. And MSHDA is going to review that as well to make sure it's compliant. All right. So I'm going to run through the rest of the stuff pretty quickly because this is all standard. You've seen this before. We have to show what the estimated impact of the tax increment financing is going to be on the communities. Instead of showing you annual year by year, because you can never read it on a screen this size, this is the total amount of revenue that all the taxing units are going to give up over the life of this project. By give up, I mean defer their collection of, right? So in the case of the county, we'll look at the big one. County General I think that we anticipated 18 years for this project. So over an 18-year period, the gross amount of taxes captured from the County General will be $324,000. The city is the biggest contributor here, obviously $1 million of taxes they're going to contribute to it. And then we're also going to petition MSHDA to allow us to collect both state educational tax and school operating tax. Keep in mind, the Waterville Public Schools will actually get this as a direct benefit because whatever we capture in school tax, state treasury has to pay the schools. So this is new money coming to the schools from this project, okay? We're gonna capture it and then the state's gonna pay it out to the school district. So this is gonna be a big boost to the local school district. All right, the rest of this I'm gonna go through real quickly. We're not being asked to advance any funds to this. It's all being paid for through the developer directly. We're proposing to capture beginning January of 2026. In other words, the summer taxes of next year will be the first year of capture. We expect that the duration is going to take about 18 years based on our calculations. I've already shown you an estimated, the estimated future tax revenues generated by the taxing jurisdictions. Those are included in the plan in detail. I've shown you the legal description, location, and site maps. Those are also included in the plan. We stated that the characteristics of the property, it's a housing property and therefore eligible for inclusion. And there is not going to be any personal property tax capture because there is no personal property tax for residential units, right? Other material that the authority or the board may consider relevant in this matter. The proposed use of the property is consistent with the city's master plan. Upon a recommendation of the City Planning Commission, the City Commission 2 weeks ago approved PUD site development for this property. And then, as I indicated at the beginning of the meeting, on August 5th, the City Commission unanimously passed a resolution approving the brownfield plan and are requesting that the county do the same. This is the last step of the process. Once this is completed, we will then work on the reimbursement agreements and then present what's called an Act 50 or an Act 381 work plan, which is a big construction document, basically, that says how this project is going to be built. That's going to go to our brownfield authority and eventually submitted to MISHDA for review and approval, and that allows the tax capture to begin. So we're about 2/3 through the way of getting all this approved, and then we should have it done by the end of the year and ready for capture next year. So that's it for me. If you have questions of me, I'm happy to answer them. If you have questions for any of the visitors in the audience, I'm sure they'd be happy to answer them as well. Well, the question was who's going to own the homes. So Alan Edwin will continue to own the rental units during this period. Yeah, and they will serve as essentially the landlord during that period. They can't, even if they try to sell them, a subsequent buyer, which I know is not their intention, but a subsequent buyer would have to still maintain the rental controls on that in order for the project to be eligible for everything we're talking about.
What caused the brownfield in that property? I mean, was that because of the? Years ago, I remember.
It is a brownfield solely because they're gonna build housing on it. It's confusing, I know. It would be better if they just would have taken the name brownfield out of this entirely. It is not contaminated. It was never considered a brownfield for environmental reasons. It is a brownfield only definitionally because it's a housing project. That's it. They should have just renamed this whole act like the Development Finance Authority Act or something like that, because by including brownfield, it makes it confusing. But simply because houses are being constructed and a portion of those are going to be available to income subsidized individuals or households, that's why it's a brownfield. That's it.
One more quick question. We had a lot of drainage problems with some of the north of Waterville and that area, those down at homes, and they're putting a whole bunch more in there. Once they're under construction, how's the drainage on that side of it? I know up by the corner up in that, they just finished that project, where they drained it up into the creek. It's one of Christopher's Jones. But how's the drainage in that area? I mean, are there any problems?
There, where this is proposed, there are no drainage problems in the.
Here.
Sorry, haven't been here. Yeah, so for where this project is going, there are no drainage issues. We've put about 40 homes up there in the last 2 years. Fortunately, it's one of the few spots in the city of Waterville that's entirely built on sand, and there's no drainage issues whatsoever. We have our city engineer and is working with Alan Edwin to make sure that we don't develop any drainage issues up there. Now, what you're speaking to is up off of the western, kind of the northern northwest area of the city. We have had some drainage issues up there that we are addressing, but these are basically, these two subdivisions are on two opposite sides of the city, so with two separate. So, yeah.
I know the issues up there, what happened.
Dan, with the homes being built for sale versus those to be rented, will they look different?
No, I mean, that's the interesting thing about this design. We're also looking, incidentally, we're looking at another similar project in Royalton Township right now as well. And the interesting thing about this is that the houses are all the same in terms of general design and layout. It's not as though there's gonna be like 15 houses here and then 4 rentals next to it. They're intermixed into the whole development, and they're all the same standard of construction, okay? We actually, if you want to see them, Bob, we have the site designs. I think, how many different options do you have? Like 5 or 6 different options of design? Yeah. So, and the same is true with some of the other projects we're seeing. The developers are trying to put the rental units kind of interspersed within the development, so it doesn't, the worst thing was to say, okay, here's the rental portion and here's the high-end portion. So it's all the same construction design.
What size of homes are you talking square footage wise?
Generally, it's gonna be between 1,850 square feet and 2,200, I think, isn't that right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Those are small, a couple that could be smaller, around 1,600, but it's generally.
Okay.
I have 2 questions. Are you building houses and then you're going to sell them? Or are you going to sell them and then build them? When they started out, they built what was bought. And that's how that larger lot, that's how they went with more than they meant to. So
Yeah.
I'm saying, are you gonna build the houses and they're saying for sale and people can apply and
So, yeah, there's 2 different ways that you've seen these projects. One where you have a master developer like Harbor Shores who puts all the infrastructure in and then sells off the land.
Yeah,
And then builders come in and build, right?
yes,
The alternative is you have a developer like Allen Edmonds. They come in and they do it all.
all right.
They put the infrastructure in and they build the homes, and then they sell the homes once constructed. And that's how this development will function.
Okay.
Okay.
One other thing I wonder, you said they're 4 bedrooms, so it doesn't matter your family size. If there's just 2 of you and you want to buy one of these 4-bedroom homes, you can. I'm asking.
Yes. The reason we talk about a family of 5 is because when we do that rental calculation, Mishta tells us a 4-bedroom house should be rented by a family of 5. It doesn't necessarily mean it will be, nor does it mean that a family of 5 is going to buy the house, but that's the calculation we use.
Thank you.
Dan, one question. The PUD developments, I was always under the impression that there was a common space that was shared. Is that the case in this thing?
Yeah, they're satisfying. Let me go back to the site plan. This is a little off topic, but for PUDs, the only reason you need a PUD is because you have 2 separate uses on a site. If it was just residential, you wouldn't need a PUD. But the PUD is being done because there's a secondary use, and one of the secondary uses is access to the river. Okay. So my recollection is that the PUD is approved in 2 different conditions. Either you gain access to the river, which is essentially the public use, John, that would be like the public space use. You guys are going to gain access to the river either through a right-of-way agreement with the existing development, or they're going to build their own new sidewalk to the river. Okay, but that creates the PUD or the justification for the PUD is that open space component.
Very good.
Is that it?
Any other questions?
All right.
Any comments on behalf of the Brownfield Board?
No, none. As you said, we unanimously approved it. I'm also a member of the planning commission. Oh. As Dan said, the Brownfield unanimously approved it. I'm also a member of the planning commission. I know this is consistent with the county master plan as well. So all good.
Thank you. Sir?
How are they going to select the 4 rentals? I mean, we've got a big need in our area, I know, in that price range, and I think you may have quite a few people applying to get in those homes. How are you gonna handle that? A lottery or?
It's gonna be a draw, might be a draw. of those that
Hi, everybody. Jared Lutz with Michigan Growth Advisors. Allen Edwin Homes has a sister company that's wholly owned by Allen Edwin called Copper Bay, and that's their leasing and property management arm. And they, I wish Brian were here. I don't know how many properties, single-family homes that they do lease and manage, but they have a whole arm that, takes in those applications. It's likely going to be on a first come, first served basis. Again, provided that those families are at those income levels where, they're eligible to be in that affordable home.
You have to sort out the eligibility out first.
Exactly. Yep. And they have, and it, as Dan said, that'll have to be reported both to you as the county BRA and then to the state to verify that those households are meeting those income. Exactly. Yep. Yep.
Commissioner Yarborough.
yes, what water is it on? You're saying the water?
It is just south by about 400 feet or so, just south of the Pawpaw River.
Okay.
Far enough south to be out of
That's
the
only
flood.
140. Okay.
Gentlemen, any of you have anything else to share?
You guys have any other comments?
I'd just like to add on behalf of the city, thanks for hearing us this morning. This development's really important to the city. We obviously have a housing crisis in this area of the county. This will help out with. And I think one way to look at this, I know it's a lot to take in a day, and Dan, like usual, has done a great job of presenting it and carrying me through this, and I appreciate that. But it's kind of the way to look at this is but for as a financing option. But for this way of financing it, this development would not happen. So I think that's a real important for us. But I just want to reiterate that the city's in full support of this. We've passed what we need to do, and we appreciate the county's support in getting this done. Thank you.
Thank you. Madam Vice Chair, did you have something?
I just wanted to say thank you, Dan, and others for thinking outside of the box. And I know that this is a new venture in Brownfield, having served in the past on Brownfield and now joining it again. It's exciting to see because we've been discussing it for the last year or so about the potential of this, and seeing this be the first one that's happening here in Berrien County is great. And you're going to be helping Dan then to help navigate Allen Edward with, the reporting for the state, that type of stuff.
Yes, and we, to let the board know, the Brownfield Authority did, well, I think the board knows this well, the Brownfield Authority did approve recently a new fee schedule for these projects, and I think that was, it's on the agenda, yeah. The reason we wanted to set that fee schedule now is specifically because of these kind of projects, because the reporting requirements are gonna be, I don't wanna say onerous, but a little more involved than what we're used to doing, so it's gonna take more administrative time to do that. So we will compensate ourselves, but we will have a higher burden of reporting associated with it.
And I appreciate that. And I think that with some of the things that are on the horizon, as it looks for some of proposals that could be out there, housing is only going to become more of an issue of finding those attainable housing units for population within Berrien County. So thinking outside of the box, being on the front end of this is a good thing.
I can assure the board that this is, I know for a fact, this is the first of at least 4 of these that you're going to see in the next 12 months. And it could be significantly more than that, but there's going to be at least 4 of these that we'll be doing.
Thank you.
Any potential for the Schwark Drain project with this sort of?
Well, I don't want to say too much in a public meeting, but we have had some discussions with private developers about that property and the availability of this financing tool to assist with development.
Including Brownfield?
Exactly.
Got it. Okay, say no more. Anyone else? Motion is in order now to conclude this public hearing and go back into our regular open session. Motion by Volrath, support by Freeling. Any discussion? Hearing none, Madam Clerk, we'll need a roll call.
Freeling.
Yes.
Harrison.
Yes.
Hinkleman.
Yes.
Tyler.
Yes.
Borath.
Yes.
Werfel.
Yes.
Yarborough.
Yes.
Elliott.
Yes.
Kern.
Yes.
Thank you. We're back in regular session. We have 3 minutes before we break for committees. Are there any public comments? Anyone wish to be heard? Okay, we'll consider that public comments are concluded and may as well go ahead and adjourn and restroom breaks and then committee meetings.